Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the podcast Strikes Back. My name is George, and you're listening to the weekly movie show with the boys Connor,
Hello,
and Benny.
Hi there.
It's finally dropped, episode 9 trailer, the final trailer. We're only a couple months away from the movie release. We're going to be talking about that. Plus, we've also got some news about the Batman. Jonah Hill's out, and we've got a really, I think, a great replacement. Maybe the other guys won't. We'll be talking about that later. And also, right at the end of the episode, we will have our Watchmen review, the first episode from the new HBO series. We'll be talking about that with some spoilers as well, which I'm really excited about. So we've got a monster episode. It's going to be fun. But as we always like to do before we get into the news, before we get all into the trailers, let's talk about what everyone's been watching. Benny, do you have a list of films and streaming material that you've been consuming?
and can you keep it to cinema, please?
Actually,
As our Lord and Savior.
I was going to start with some streaming, not cinema.
It's not cinema.
Not TV either, because it's not TV, it's HBO. George, you just mentioned a HBO
Bye-bye.
show. I had to sign up to the free trial for Foxtel for HBO to see Watchmen. And while I was on there, I thought I'd check out a show that I have not stopped hearing about for the past couple months, which is HBO's Succession.
Oh, yeah.
Have you heard of this, George?
No.
No. I just keep hearing people kind of talking about it, like they're obsessed with this show. So I'm like, all right, fuck it. I'm not much of a bandwagon guy, but I'll give it a go because it's HBO. And yeah, I watched the whole first season this past week, and I'm pretty enraptured. It's
Wow,
good
so
stuff.
you plowed through a season in 1 week.
Yeah.
Wow.
There are so few shows that will grab my attention like that. And admittedly, I was kind of working at it because I wanted to, because there's a second season that's apparently really good as well. But yeah, basically it's about this uber-rich family with the patriarch. He's kind of a Rupert Murdoch type, big media mogul, and all of his kind of family, sons and daughters and whatnot, are all sort of vying for his favor and the top position in his company and everything. It's really cool. It's sort of it's sort of satirical, kind of dark comedy at points, drama, and ultimately I think just a big character piece. Every single episode, the character who you're rooting for and the character who you think is utterly despicable will change several times.
That's cool.
It's really interesting, yeah. Very watchable stuff.
Nice. Well, I
Awesome.
must check that out because I also picked up a Foxtel Now subscription.
Did you get the free trial?
Yeah. 10 days. But I mean, what's that? You know, like I'm going to get 2 Watchmen episodes out of 9?
Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Foxtel. Sorry. Anyway.
Just get another credit card and you can keep signing up as many free trials as you want. I hope Foxtel's not listening.
We love you, Foxtel, if you send us the money. Anything else?
Yeah, I also chucked on, for some reason, I paid for it as well, Paranormal Activity, the marked ones. The 5th out of 6 Paranormal Activity films.
Is there 6?
There's 6 of them, yeah.
Wow.
That's the second last one.
Okay.
It was fine. It's fine. It was a lot better than 4 and worse than the first 3, which
Honestly?
I really legitimately like.
I don't know if I've seen anything past the second one.
Third one I think is really, really good.
That's the cult one, right?
That's the prequel one about Katie and her sister when they were children.
Yeah.
In the 80s. That does such inventive stuff
With the cult
with the
and all
format
that.
and everything. That's the one that introduces the camera on top of a fan. So it's just going back and forth for a lot of shots.
Oh,
and
really?
the stuff they do with that, like
Super
it
effective.
doesn't sound like much, but the stuff they do with it is really clever. Anyway, marked ones is fine. That's all. That's me.
I watched Todd Phillips's War Dogs,
Cool.
which I've never seen before.
Oh, okay.
I love Jonah
What was
Hill's
the
laugh.
fucking-
That's Jonah Hill's laugh.
Jonah
man.
Hill,
I was
yeah.
like, I need to incorporate that in my day-to-day life. That was just
Yeah.
such an obnoxious laugh. I kind of loved it. Anyway, it was a very interesting film from the perspective of, like, I feel like Todd Phillips with Joker was, you know, paying homage to Taxi Driver and a few other Scorsese pieces, and in this one, he's paying homage to like the Goodfellas, the Casino kind of format with the voiceover and whatnot. And I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. I was really captivated the whole time. Really nice, tight storytelling. You know, it wasn't super complex. It wasn't like a character piece or something. It was quite fun and entertaining, and it, when it got dark, it didn't ever feel like super super dark, and I think I really enjoyed it and I had a great time with it.
It's very watchable.
Yeah.
You seen it, Connor?
Yeah. I watched it. God, it had to be over a year ago. I really liked Jonah Hill's performance in that. A very watchable movie. I couldn't recall the plot to save my life, apart from I know that they sold guns. So I mean, in terms of a story, somewhat forgettable, but I do remember it being very easy to watch, and I liked Jonah Hill in it.
Yeah, Jonah Hill's just fantastic in it, and I think that's all I watched this week, other than Watchmen.
Yeah, which we'll talk about at the end of the episode, I believe.
Yes, at the end of the episode. So head out to the annotations if you want to skip anywhere. BT dubs.
I did watch season 5 of Community, but I want to wait until I'm finished up 6 before I actually talk about it. Suffice it to say that I don't think it's as good or bad as most people seem to think it is. I did chuck on The Dark Knight, though, as a kind of contrast to the Joker. I was really interested. It was on Netflix. I just, I thought this is probably a good time to revisit it as any. And it kind of brought home this idea that the Joker in the Joker, or Todd Phillips' Joker, is almost a completely different character than the one that you would see in The Dark Knight or any of the previous iterations of the Joker.
Yeah.
And it kind of put into context for me how sort of unnecessary the Joker was as a DC property, and that's not really taking anything away from it in terms of what it did as a film, as a character piece of someone going through mental illness and finding kind of breaking, I suppose, in society. Well, however you want to see that film, I think the character piece still works, but it just, to me, without really integrating into Gotham or the mythos of Batman, the movie just kind of did the Joker did the bare minimum. And it kind of solidified for me, like, I would have been absolutely fine if this wasn't a Joker film.
Yeah, I agree with you to a certain point. It did have more, I think we mentioned this in our review, it did have more references to Batman and Gotham and whatnot than I was anticipating. But
yes,
I think what the thing about the Joker is, when it was Jack Nicholson, it was like a dude fell in a pool of something and out popped a crazy guy. In the Nolan one, what I loved about the Nolan one and why it still remains my favorite Joker is just like, you don't actually know his origin. You don't know where he comes from.
Yeah,
he is just like as much as I think, for me, the best interpretation of the Joker that I've seen committed to screen, and just the way he kept telling, you know how I got these scars, and every story is different. I just think that weaves so perfectly into the narrative, and the Todd Phillips one, does it over explain things? Yeah, I mean, there's a pretty good argument there. Luckily, the performances and whatnot back it up, but there's a definite argument there. Like, is Joker necessary? Like, isn't the thing about Joker is that
not the movie? Is it necessary? Is it necessary as a DC property? Like, is it necessary for us to know the really gritty and realistic origins of the Joker, as opposed to just seeing this film, which I thought was it was a good film. But anyways.
Yeah, I liked Joker a lot. Don't at me, but Heath is always going to be the GOAT. Like,
yeah.
When are we ever going to get a better one than that? Come on.
Yeah, completely agree.
I don't think we will. And him and Bale play off each other quite well. It is very hard to go back to those films and watch him do that voice, though. I don't like
the Bale Batman voice.
Yeah,
That's good.
It's
I'm not wearing hockey pads.
Yeah,
I was just saying this last week, and I didn't feel like I was getting a lot of agreement, so I'm glad to hear that, because I can't take him seriously at all.
It's just one of those things, particularly when he's talking to Lucius, that he's still doing the Batman voice. I'm like,
or Dark Knight Rises when he's talking to himself. So that's what that feels like.
Yeah, exactly, right?
And I know maybe it's meant to be like a voice modulation thing, but fuck it all.
It's good.
So silly.
It's good, clean, and wholesome.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Conroy, he got it right.
Yeah, I watched that. Actually, this might be controversial, but I did like the voice modulation thing that they did with Ben Affleck, his Batman. A little bit more electronic. It actually sounded as though he was using technology to disguise his voice. It didn't sound like someone was just like putting on a silly voice. And I was like, okay, I can get behind that.
Wait. Just last thing on that.
Before we get past this.
I want to say I would love for us to do either a commentary or a retrospect review on those Nolan ones.
I'd love to go back and watch the first two.
I'm about ready. I could sit through the third one again. If it showed in a cinema, I would like to give it a go. I think I would be laughing the whole time at Bane and Bale, but I'd like to give it a go.
I'd like to go through it and just kind of look at it as a whole piece, as the same thing once episode 9 comes out.
Yeah.
I'd like to do the same thing there as like a series, a trilogy retrospect or something.
All right. So
stay tuned.
The other thing that I chucked on was I had always watched like a couple of episodes or like a pieces of episodes of this, but I put on the first 2 seasons and kind of like watched them from front to back, and that is Letterkenny, which I don't know if either of you know what Letterkenny is.
Nope.
It is a very Canadian,
I was just about to say,
very oddball comedy about a small town in Ontario. I believe it's in Ontario. And it is exceedingly Canadian in that it has people that have strong rural accents that like use a lot of Canadian slang.
Oh boy.
What's some Canadian slang?
What's
we're gonna have to take your card, buddy.
Yeah. Talking about getting into a tilly. So like a fight, or a Donnybrook, or like some of these I had to look up, by the way, because they go really hard into the rural Ontario slang, which I am not privy to. But it is really fucking funny, and it is so easy to watch. And basically this series seems to get by on just some very clever writing. They perhaps overuse alliteration as a device, but fuck, I don't even care. It's amazing.
Do you have to be Canadian to enjoy this show?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't know, because
do you have nostalgia to the show?
No nostalgia. It's I think started in 2016 or 15.
Okay.
It's had like 7 seasons. It was like a what was it? It was a Crave original. You remember Crave? Which was, I think, what Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee was originally on.
Oh wow.
Right.
It's really hard to get in Australia. I think you can get the first season on SBS, which, by the way, SBS, sort out your fucking streaming site. I swear to God.
The free streaming site.
Fuck, yeah. I swear to God. I will pay, I don't know, $1 or $2 to have something that's not that. The second season onwards is, find it however you may. But I can't. I'll show you like some cool like cold opens or something like that from the series when we're done with the podcast.
We don't have to.
I will, because it is very funny.
Oh, hey.
Yeah, like I mean more Canadian than that. Like it's
Oh, hey.
ooh-wee.
Oh, hey.
Anyways, yeah, very funny. Check it out.
I picture you watching TV at home like Ozymandias from Watchmen, just like dozens of TVs. Just like how I don't know how else you get through all of this stuff.
Honestly, what the fuck, man?
Like I watch a lot of TV while I do other things.
Like while
so
you
you're not really
work full time, are you watching TV there? Because that's the only way I could see you get do it.
Yeah, I mean, like, so
Is that why you
with
came off
Letterkenny,
your?
it's
Is that
like-
why you came off your bike while mountain biking?
Yeah, exactly. I was watching at the same time. No, Letterkenny is like 6
so we're punching
episodes a
the deal.
season.
Yeah.
And they're like 25 minutes an episode or 20 minutes an episode or something like that. So it was like all up is like 4 hours across a week. And so yeah, that's not too bad.
All right, shall we get on to the news?
Let's
do
get
it.
on to the news.
It's the big ones.
Ooh.
It's a big fish.
Alrighty, we'll start up with, we've just been talking about Batman. We'll start up with the casting update for The Batman. by Matt Reeves. Jonah Hill, as you mentioned, Georgie, is out. He's out of talks, so all that reporting was for nothing, I guess. Sometimes stuff gets sort of out to the press and it just goes nowhere. But we have got someone officially cast as the Riddler, Paul Dano.
I think it's a great choice.
Who you might know from Ruby Sparks, There Will Be Blood, Swiss Army Man.
Little Miss
Also,
Sunshine.
the
Little Miss Sunshine.
Looper. Sorry.
Looper, yeah. He's sort of a big indie guy most of the time. He hasn't had any kind of massive goes in the spotlight. He is one of the most punchable actors in Hollywood, which makes him so perfect for the Riddler. One of the most punchable villains in Batman's Rogues Gallery.
Okay.
Maybe clarify what you mean by punchable.
Have you seen him in any movies? You just kind of want to pop him in the face, don't you?
I mean, man, I've never heard you so.
Yeah, I was like, you're not an aggressive person.
I was like, is that me?
I never would. I'm just saying.
I'm going to pop him in the face.
He's kind of a little weasel man.
Yeah, he's kind of gangly.
I'm just
We're basically describing Ben now at this point.
Hey. Yeah, no, I'm punchable as well. I'll give
I've
a
always
minute.
like
Takes one to know one.
You're such a bro these days, Benny. Like, I just want to fucking smash that little motherfucker.
a
little
I am honestly
Swarf.
thrown
Think you're the Riddler?
by this random level of aggression coming from you, Ben. Like it's not even like this kind of
I
sarcastic
endorse
snipe.
it. I endorse it.
Yeah.
No, what do you guys think? I think he's perfect.
Spot on.
Yeah.
Spot on.
Still reeling, but yeah. Look, I was really interested to see Jonah Hill in this. I mean, I know he hadn't actually been cast as the Riddler. He was just everyone just kind of assumed that he was. But I had kind of latched onto that idea as much as I told myself not to be. And so I don't know. This isn't the role that I would have imagined for him.
Really?
I don't know. Yeah, there's something that doesn't quite gel, and maybe it's just I haven't had enough time to really let it marinate.
I am on the other side of the fence.
You're
here.
100% down with
Because what I think a trap here is essentially like Jonah Hill. We've got War Dogs. We've got a lot Wolf of Wall Street. Like he's Moneyball. He's done more serious roles and whatnot. But I still think of him like a lot of the time as a comedic actor. And I think with the danger here could be with Jonah Hill, or maybe let's not say the danger. The advantage where I think Paul Dano's better casting is that Jonah Hill could potentially turn into more of a comedic style Riddler, a la Jim Carrey.
Exactly, yeah.
And I'm really keen to see more of this, like what what Robert Pattinson's saying, what Matt Reeves has said. Like I'm really interested to see this more, or this new take on the Riddler and Batman and whatnot that they're proposing. And I think Paul Dano seems to fit into that better than Jonah Hill.
Yeah, very legit actor. I'm keen to see his take. I think it should be a lot of fun.
And I think I can see him, in the gangly kind of, like in the suit and whatnot. And it seems to sort of visually fit.
Yeah, definitely.
visually. Yeah, he's pretty spot on. But yeah,
Yeah. Well, we've got some more news on the Batman.
yeah.
Yes. Michael Giacchino has signed on to score the film.
How do you guys feel about that?
Well, let's context. I mean, this is one of the best scored franchises ever, I think. Like, between the Danny Elfman score and the Hans Zimmer, James Newton Howard stuff alone, I think that's like two of the greatest movie themes ever for the one character.
So I thought you were talking about like, I was like, this is the first movie in this. If it's a series, the series is like, no, you're talking about Batman.
Batman in general, yeah. And I think they've gotten one of the greatest working composers in Hollywood for this new one. That's great.
Yeah, Giacchino is prolific and he's amazing, but sometimes he leaves me a little bit cold with his scores. Sometimes it's just a little bit like temp score.
By numbers type thing?
Yeah, temp score kind of, we're just going to do a riff on that.
They're not all 10 out of 10, but the stuff, when he really hits it, I think it's the best of the best, like Incredibles, Lost even.
100% Incredibles. Yeah, and he is an incredible composer and he's one of the best working. It's just sometimes like Rogue One and a few others where he's been the main composer and so I'm just going to be like, this is not quite.
Rogue One though, he came into very late.
he came
Yeah,
to that
I thought he
super
corrected
late.
stuff, didn't he? Something like that.
I think
this
I think they
blah
scrapped
left.
this score, but he had a very short amount of time
Yeah,
to do
Yeah.
a new
he
one.
totally did. He totally did. I'm being very, very harsh here. Being very, very harsh.
But it
think-
does feel kind of like new ground for Giacchino. Like, you know, we've had the kind of gothic, dark fairy tale sort of version of it, and then the really bombastic Hans Zimmer stuff. Giacchino's a little more, I don't know, uplifting or empowering.
I'd be
you know.
even down if they bring back the animated series theme.
Oh, hell yeah.
That would
Which
be
they did in
sick.
Justice League, those cheeky bastards.
Yeah,
That was so
fuck. I forgot about
cynical.
that.
Remember
Justice
that?
League.
They brought in the John Williams Superman theme and
Yeah.
the Daniel from Batman theme. Yeah.
Desperate bastards.
I know I said this last week, and I've got to stop being so pessimistic about these projects. But I honestly believe that this is a little bit too soon. I'm getting a little bit almost fatigued with the scattershot nature of DC's
Onslaught.
projects. You know, it just having this many Batmans in quick succession is like, I don't think it's a good idea. And you know, that again, I said the same thing about the Joker, particularly when there was still a Jared Leto Joker film that was meant to go ahead. And I, you know, maybe I didn't really feel like that because it wasn't part of any other kind of universe, and it was a very different take. So much so that I don't think it was really an addition to DC in general. But this one I believe is going to feel like it belongs in the DC universe, and therefore I think I'm going to get that little bit of a whiplash where I'm like, it's a different guy playing Batman, and it's getting a bit much.
Yeah, and you would almost think like, you know, Green Lantern was 2009 or 2010 or something.
But I can give that one another shot. I don't even care.
You know, maybe it was 2011, but that was like 8 years ago, best part of a decade ago. Like, they still haven't got it together. They continue to not, and Joker, I mean, it's doing good business, 741.3 million. But as you said, Connor, it just seems to be so muddled and jumbled. Maybe that's just going to be their plan forever, is just continually reinvent and shoot shit at the wall and hope.
Yeah, and just see what sticks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rather than the more Marvel organized approach. And then there'll be parallel universes and
Again, I don't even mind them
different continuities.
shooting like that. Scattershot is disorienting, but I don't necessarily mind it as long as they're branching out into different properties, right? But this kind of we're doing a live action Batman film again with a different actor, which is the third one in the last 5 years roughly. When did
We haven't had a Batman film since 2012. Really.
Batman vs Superman was, as well as Justice League, were heavily reliant on Batman.
Absolutely, but they were more DCEU films. Like, they were trying to be Justice League films essentially.
They were trying.
Yeah, and they failed so spectacularly. Like, I wouldn't be fatigued if they were releasing a reboot every year, because I just love this shit. I love the lead up to it and the watching a new thing, a new take. I think that's more of like a comic book thing, but I think just looking at it more realistically, like, you had the Nolan trilogy, which was such a huge hit and so impactful. Then you just had this horrible attempt that was a kind of a garbage fire, and now we have this one. So it's kind of like a 10-year gap almost, even from like the last Nolan movie when this eventually comes out. You know?
Yeah. When
Like,
was the last Nolan film?
2012.
Okay. Yeah. I think that if we were attacking it now without the Affleck stuff in the middle, I'd be a lot more keen
Yeah.
on seeing a reinvention of this.
Yeah. See, I just thought that was all
but-
such a disaster that I just want to put it behind us. Like, yeah, let's build over it, make new stuff, forget about it.
Yeah, it's me being a little bit of a pessimist with you know, just kind of the constant.
No, that's why we
onslaught,
love
so-
you, man.
Yeah.
That's
Keep
why.
everything
Yeah.
measured in order. We got some more DC.
Yeah, so we've got a story from the Hollywood Reporter
news.
here. Speaking of, upon learning about Todd Phillips' Joker, Jared Leto tried to have the project killed. The actor felt alienated and upset when Warner Brothers greenlit the film with Joaquin Phoenix instead of him. There's been a lot of press about this, a lot of mockery of Jared Leto, of course, because he is undoubtedly, universally the most reviled performance of the Joker ever in Suicide Squad, obviously.
Yeah. I was going to say, and more than that, there's a story that broke, and I'm not sure as to how accurate it is, but that he actually petitioned or tried to get it shut down.
Yep.
Yeah. That's it. He worked with his agents. He called like the head of the music Warner label that he works with to try and just get stuff moving to get this film destroyed. And he's since fired all of his management, I think, because of all this stuff,
Right.
and
Wow. moved
on.
I mean, I am twofold about this.
I get it. I absolutely get it, because I don't even hate him in Suicide Squad necessarily. I think he's far from the worst thing about that film.
Yeah.
And also, from what he said, there's a lot of scenes that are missing. You know, they shot a lot of footage of him and deleted scenes, other stuff left on the.
And I don't know that
floor.
would turn him into a classic or anything, but
no, but maybe goes from a 4 out of 10 to a 6. You know,
yeah. And basically, what he was signing on for was to be in this role, presumably in perpetuity, because they were trying to make this universe happen. And to have them greenlight this other project and not put him in it, like, that would sting. I could see why he'd be upset about it.
Yeah.
His behavior seems like, very over the top.
So yeah, but that's the thing, right? Like, I think that the media is being like particularly hyperbolic with, or not even hyperbolic, but just like they sniff out a story and they're slamming this thing. I think
and he's an easy target because everyone hates him already.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's a bit unfair in that sense. Like, I don't think, like, I would be upset as well if I was in that situation. I also think that his reaction to all this, it's like, it's a fucking role. Move on. Like, why is this the hill that you've decided to stand on and die? Like,
people love controversy. People love to
I think it's just
stick the knife in.
Yeah, I think the one thing in his favor is this story isn't coming from him. This isn't him on Twitter, like, blasting this movie or anything. This is from The Hollywood Reporter. Because, a lot of other actors, they don't have any compunction about just really getting very vocal about stuff like this.
Yeah.
And everyone's just like, shut up.
Yeah, so. you would almost think it would be in his contract that he would have this role for 3 movies, and there would be no. Who knows how all that stuff works.
Well, it's a complicated story because Warner Brothers themselves had very little faith in this Joker film. They gave it such a low budget because they didn't want Todd Phillips to accept. They were like, we'll give you this much money, thinking he'd just be like, well, I can't do it for that. But then he went ahead with it. And again, Warner Brothers is succeeding despite themselves because Joker is on its way probably this week or next week to being the highest grossing R-rated film of all time.
To eclipse Deadpool 1.
Taking over Deadpool 1, yeah.
It's a huge achievement.
That's good stuff, yeah. With all the stuff surrounding this film, that's such a great result for them.
I think it's not in spite of, I think it's almost because.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big part of it.
Gets it in the conversation.
Yeah, 100%.
See, you just need eyeballs on it, people talking about it.
Yep.
Exactly. Well, cheer up, Jared. We're on your side, mate.
Sort of.
I don't know about that.
Let's not go too far.
The Kill, that's a tune. It's a fucking tune.
All right, next up in crazy movie news, China has cancelled the release of Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Sources have told The Hollywood Reporter that Bruce Lee's daughter made a direct appeal to China's National Film Administration for changes to her father's controversial portrayal in the film, which resulted in the movie just being completely shut down. Now, a bit of context, the only film to even come close to a release of Tarantino's in China was The Hateful Eight, which got pulled from theaters minutes into the opening day.
Really?
Yeah, they across the country shut it down. I think there had been some successful midnight screenings, and then without much of an explanation, word just went out across the country to cite technical issues and shut the film down.
Wow.
So it never actually got that release.
Okay.
But yeah, so this isn't hugely surprising, but the reason for it is, I guess, sadly unsurprising.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm somewhat sympathetic to Bruce Lee's daughter, kind of looking at her father's image being morphed and not accurately portrayed.
100%.
So I understand that.
I'm
also
completely with
understand-
her on every comment she's made, and
Yep.
she's absolutely free to make them. I don't think she's done anything wrong here, but
appealing to have the movie shut down, I don't necessarily agree with that because while yes,
I think she wanted edits made to the film. I think this has gone further than she requested. But yes, this
but
is
even,
a big step.
Even requesting edits. I mean, her father was a public figure. This is a Tarantino film. It's not as if Tarantino has ever been particularly interested in historical accuracy. And I think that
Or any kind of sensitivity.
Yeah, and I think there needs to be some kind of understanding that, it's not. Yes, he's a real person, but this is like a character version of him, as is most films are caricatures of real people. They probably wouldn't be as entertaining if they weren't.
Yeah, it wasn't like a nuanced portrayal. It was a very, as you said, caricature.
Yeah,
Have you seen the film, Connor?
I haven't. No, but I understand
No.
what her comments
didn't
about it
see
were.
it.
I'd somehow
You were
just
away
kind
at
of
the time.
slipped by.
Yeah.
But
It'll come through soon.
yeah. But I mean, so there's that really kind of delicate line. Like, again, I understand her speaking out and saying, I don't like the portrayal of my father, completely legitimate. But to then go and petition anyone to do any kind of edits, I think is a step too far.
Definitely. But I think if there's a villain of the story, it's the Chinese Film Administration Board, because they the way they treat movies is crazy. Of course, we're not going to get into the politics of that part of the world right now.
I will.
But
I agree. I think that is a gross overreaction. I mean, like, it's not surprising with China, but it is certainly, I think, sad.
Yeah, and I feel as though that, whatever your yardstick is, there could have been, let's say your celebrity X or person X's person is portrayed in a movie and does something that maybe they never committed, or
that's so nebulous.
Let's say Bruce Lee fucking raped Brad Pitt in the movie. That
didn't happen.
As a
spoilers.
really crude example, there could be a lot more like, what the fuck, a lot more outrage.
That's more like, that's kind of like a serious allegation of defamation of that person.
Exactly.
Like, that's far more.
And in this scenario, like, there's a lot more gray area. Obviously she's upset and whatnot. And I completely empathize and I completely understand. But it seems to be like a couple measures too far, as it were. But as I said, everyone has their own yardstick, and that's that is what it is.
Yeah, I sympathize with her completely, and I'm all for her not watching the movie, and the rest of us should be able to.
Yeah,
It's a great film.
I myself didn't love the portrayal probably before I'd seen the film, because who doesn't love Bruce Lee?
Yeah,
one of the coolest guys. He's so mythologized that to see him as kind of just sort of a douchey guy in the movie is like, oh, come on, man, it's Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
It's one of my least favorite scenes from the movie.
Well, I was just about to say, after watching the movie, it was one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
Really?
Not because of the portrayal of Bruce Lee, just the scene itself and what it was doing and what it contributed to the film as a whole. I really liked, which I won't get into. But yeah. Anyway, it's a shame that the movie's not going to get its release. I think every movie should be released everywhere for everyone to see.
Yes.
Yep.
I agree.
Alrighty, next up, this is one of the craziest stories I think we've ever reported on this show.
I love this.
Daniel Kaluuya, star of Get Out, has a newly formed production company, 59%, and they're teaming up with Mattel for a Barney the Dinosaur movie. Now, that is weird enough on its own, but then we have a couple of quotes about the film. Says Kaluuya, Barney was a ubiquitous figure in many of our childhoods. Then he disappeared into the shadows, left misunderstood. We're excited to explore this compelling modern-day hero and see if his message of I love you, you love me can stand the test of time.
That's epic.
And then Mattel has an official statement. We're working with Daniel Kaluuya will enable us to take a completely new approach to Barney that will surprise audiences and subvert expectations. The project will speak to the nostalgia of the brand in a way that will resonate with adults while entertaining today's kids.
Wow.
Does anyone else think they're making a Five Nights at Freddy's movie except with Barney?
Yeah. It's like a horror. I'm getting the vibe that Kaluuya has really enjoyed working with Jordan Peele.
Yeah.
He's probably absorbed a lot of the nuances,
sensibilities,
his creativity being on set, and some kind of opportunities turned up, and he's pounced on it.
Yeah, so as far as I'm aware, I'm a lot older than 2 years old and I don't have any kids. This is more or less a dead brand. Is this still doing anything anywhere? Have you heard of Barney in a long time?
I have no idea. I mean, like since...
Because he was a big deal.
Did you guys watch Barney?
Yeah, that was my childhood.
Hell
I
no.
loved Barney, man.
I did not.
Barney was the shit.
Barney
Why
was
did you
shit.
like-
I
why
was
did you
like
like Barney?
super into dinosaurs as a kid, so to me he was an insult.
Right.
Because I had like all this like series of
How
books
old
and
are we
everything.
talking? Like,
I don't know, when I was like 4 or 5, like I had all these books about like real dinosaurs. Jurassic Park kind of rolled around. I'm like, that is cool. I wasn't allowed to see it, but
Did
I
you
was
watch
like,
Walking with Dinosaurs, that BBC
Yeah,
series?
yeah,
That
yeah,
was
yeah,
my
yeah.
jam.
No.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I used to have like an old, like fucking old PC game that you go exploring through dinosaur land.
My friend had a bunch of those. I used to watch
Through the
them.
museum?
Well, no,
And
like
you go like digging.
I think so. And then, but there was also you'd go back and you'd see them fight as well. Like it was, I get flashes of it.
Yeah. Like, wake up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat.
Vietnam flashback.
Yeah.
Dinosaurs and
Will I get that bone?
and he was
Anyway.
like, so but that for me as a kid, that was kind of like it was one of the staples.
Yeah, I don't think it was like a favorite or the biggest, like Thomas the Tank Engine. You know, that is the gold standard.
Yeah, I was more of a Thomas guy.
So Barney was somewhere in the middle, and I probably only watched a handful of episodes, but I
This feels like
Enjoyable.
You
either
love
he's
him
going
and
to
he
try and
loves
make a
you.
Yeah.
commentary on all this like nostalgia coming up, or he's just going to cash in on it.
I think he saw that SNL Oscar the Grouch short and was like, I'm going to do that for real. Because there is, I don't know, his quote just seems, I've never really heard him speak about anything in real life, but it just seems so winking. Like he's so clearly...
and he's
to be
British. He's British. He's not American.
I kind of hope that this doesn't come to fruition. The more I think about it, because I've decided that I'm going to be a pessimist for the rest of the podcast. There's no
That's
no
great.
avoiding it.
We need you there.
For me, it's kind of like either he's doing like this weird kind of dark version of Barney, in which case, you'll have to really convince me on that. Or he's actually remaking Barney, in which case, like I mean, that's such a nothing. Like it means absolutely nothing to me. I don't know if you guys are seeing something that I'm not with this, but
If it's something fun and different and out there, you know, I'm in.
But how do you make Barney?
If it's a kids show, or if it's a kids, if it's geared towards like that Cars kind of market that Pixar go for with that franchise, I'm not interested at all. So
Yeah,
let's see how it turns up.
Much more interested into seeing what's actually going on here than the final product.
The movie
maybe.
making.
Yeah. Anyway, next up, very good news. Jeff Smith's graphic novel Epic Bone is being adapted into an animated series by Netflix, and Smith himself is attached to oversee the project. Bone is... When I started getting into comics, it was one of those names that was just kept popping up.
Same.
People saying, this is one of the seminal works that you have to read. And it's basically like it's almost like a Looney Tunes cartoon mixed with Lord of the Rings.
Yep.
It's it starts out as this very quaint little
I've seen this.
Everyone's seen it, yeah. No one really knows, but it's this really cool fantasy comic. Starts out very quaint and small, and you think it's just this funny little thing. And by the end of it, it's just this sprawling adventure. It's so well illustrated, so well told, the story. You really fall in love with everything about it. And it's been in development hell, an adaptation of it, for many, many years. Nickelodeon or someone was going to make a movie about it, maybe DreamWorks a few years back. They had a director attached and everything, just never went anywhere. There were several attempts before that. Yeah. But finally, Netflix has grabbed it, and I think that's a really great home for it. Based, if nothing else, on what they did recently with The Dark Crystal, which I think is kind of comparable. Just seems like they're going to give it the freedom it needs.
Yeah.
Does it feel like a story that's going to hop from that medium to either, I'm assuming it's going to be a TV series?
Yeah. It's really, like, you can see it moving as you read it almost. It's so energetic and so cinematic in a lot of ways.
Have you read the whole series?
Yeah. I've got it all, man. You can borrow it.
I've only read the first two, but I think it's really
comic
awesome.
books in general are good to adapt to the screen because so much of
'Cause
the
there's
medium
pictures.
is it's visual as well as
And it's framed as well.
Yeah, exactly. So but there are a couple of examples where it hasn't quite come across. So
Yeah.
it's always interesting to see, like, from someone that has read the original material, do you think it's an easy transition?
It'll be interesting to see if they go for more of a CG look or more of a hand-drawn comic book look.
I'm hoping they do something a little more. Some kind of mix of traditional and I don't know if you guys have seen the trailer for Klaus or Claus, the Santa
I
Claus
have,
movie,
yes.
No.
coming up on Netflix. It is gorgeous.
Yeah.
It is so stunning, and I don't know what exactly they're doing. It reminds me almost of Spider-Verse in how unique it looks and how much it's blending 2D and 3D.
Looks very, very interesting.
It's really stunning. So if they can pull off something like that for this.
And it
man.
seems as though Netflix has been willing to allow artists to do that kind of thing. Like, I know that Castlevania wasn't a, to true anime fans, it wasn't up to that par, but they were willing to go with a director and say, yeah, like, let's hand draw this shit. Let's do it properly. Let's, kind of do something that's maybe not as mainstream nowadays. And since then have had a number of different animated projects that I think are very interesting or very cool.
Yeah, and not having to worry about the box office draw, I think, is great news for this series.
Yeah, I think this could definitely be comparable to the Dark Crystal, which did good numbers apparently as well, like, or at least was a good draw for Netflix.
Nice. The one interesting thing about it is the casting, because Jeff Smith has such a great authorial voice. All of his characters have such a clear voice in your mind. I think if you're not listening to a specific actor, you do have some other voice in your head for these characters. I think it's going to be a lot of kind of fun discussion about it as they are.
That's always the fun of seeing who's going to voice what characters for any kind of adapted medium.
This is primed to be a really amazing piece. So the source material's there. They've just got to nail it in terms of the look and make sure that they're taking the right pieces and presenting that graphic novel in the right way.
Yeah, and I give Netflix a lot of crap for their original content, but that's just the movies I'm talking about. I think with TV, they are so much stronger, and I think this is one project that they absolutely have everything there to nail it.
He's backpedaling.
I bought some stock in Netflix. All right, finally, now this one's exciting. Robert Zemeckis is in talks to direct a live-action Pinocchio.
How many Pinocchio
Is it
movies?
exciting?
No,
Is it
it's
exciting?
absolutely not.
How many Pinocchio movies are there? It's like Guillermo del Toro's got one.
Well,
Some
that's
other bloke's
never gonna
got
happen.
one. Zemeckis going for another one.
Yeah.
This is more of the same. Although, all right, look, I'll be optimistic now because I think with the new Mulan movie, which we all really enjoyed the trailer for, I think, from memory. At least I know that, Ben, you did. I think that that maybe they're listening to the audience and they just don't want a rehashed sing-along version of the original. And if that is the case, then fuck, I will watch Pinocchio by Zemeckis, maybe.
But then there was the box office haul for Lion King, which I think is going to fly very hard in the face of that.
And then you've also got...
But that's also Lion King. That's very different than Pinocchio because the Lion King was going to do... Like, they could have taken a giant shit and just filmed it for 2 hours.
Isn't
and
that
called
what
it the
they
Lion
did?
King.
I've only seen the trailers.
Yeah.
But
And that would have done well because the property is so strong. I mean, that is... At the time, it was the highest grossing animated film.
Pinocchio is very much more in the Dumbo camp.
It is, right? So I think that they have to be a little bit more strategic about how they handle this.
They got to make it hip for the kids.
Yeah, and do more than they did with, for example, Aladdin. Because Aladdin is another one of those properties that people, like, that's like a seminal piece of work for like the golden age of Disney. So, if they take an original and interesting take on this, like they seem to have with Mulan, then I will give this the benefit of the doubt and say that that's interesting.
There's nothing that Robert Zemeckis can't take and fuck up.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like that's not a particularly inspired choice for
Mars
director, but I mean,
needs mums.
Oh man, I haven't seen his last film, Welcome to Marwen, the Steve Carell one about the guy who makes the little
little
models
figurines,
and
yeah.
but that was probably the worst reviewed film of the year, I think.
was it really?
Oh man, people despised that film. What I read about it, it sounded absolutely unbelievable, and the trailers looked bad enough.
Looks
I mean,
horrible.
you guys
Del
remember those?
Del Toro's Pinocchio is coming next year
Oh, it's actually
to
happening.
Netflix. Yeah, I think we reported on this.
That's crazy, man. A Del Toro project actually happening.
Yeah, can you believe it?
I mean, Zemeckis does have some good films under his belt. Like,
He's
it's not
got
like
some
it's-
masterpieces.
Yeah.
He's just. Oh,
He made Back to
man.
the Future, which I think is the most perfect film
He
ever
made
made.
Contact. He made.
He made Flight with Denzel Washington, which is probably okay. I never
He
saw it.
made.
It is actually, it is quite
Castaway.
good.
Castaway, yeah. He's got
Castaway's
some really
great.
great stuff, just not so much from the past 20 years or so, which is more in the era we're talking about.
It's more relevant to the immediate
Yeah, unfortunately.
He's
conversation.
one of these film directors. Actually, there was that the write up you sent, Benny, in the group chat about the high frame rate?
Yeah.
And I'm talking about how these filmmakers like Ang Lee, citing Ang Lee and Peter Jackson as prime examples.
They're technology film directors.
Yeah, they've
now.
essentially moved past the medium, and they're wanting, they're so enthralled with moving the technology forward that
Less
the
about
storytelling
yeah.
has been gone by the wayside.
And Zemeckis is a perfect example of that. I
I
mean,
would say so.
that Mars Needs Mums you mentioned before, that was one of the most terrifying things I've ever looked at.
I watched the trailer once. And I wanted to burn my eyes out. Said,
I'm just
"Mommy,
going. I'm going
no
through
more."
his like
Hmm.
filmography right now, and that is very confusing.
That's what you call peaking early.
fucking hell.
Oh.
I mean, he did Beowulf.
Exactly.
God,
He did,
Beowulf.
but he's now filming The Witches as well with the
Oh,
Roald
no.
Dahl,
Oh boy.
which that is terrifying in and of itself.
Mm.
Help me.
Did you guys ever watch the original
Yeah,
Witches?
I love the
Did that
Yeah.
terrify the shit out
Love
of you?
the book as well.
Yeah. Anything by Roald Dahl, really. But
Yeah.
anyways, what time is it, gents?
It's trailer time.
Trailer time.
That was weird.
I don't know how
Yeah,
I feel
I
about this.
Fucking, snuck in.
Do I have to leave now? Or-
Yeah. You're
Jimmy's
done,
like,
Ben.
"You
You're
cheated
done.
on me.
Am I fired?
Um,
Yeah, my fun.
So first off, on the list, it's what George has been waiting for.
the big one.
The really
Bloodshot.
big one. The final trailer for Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. Before we get to see it on the big screen.
Is it The Rise of Skywalker?
The Rise of Skywalker.
Okay, cool.
Is it Rise of Skywalker or The Rise of Skywalker?
Is it Rise of the Skywalker?
No, it's
Star
definitely not
Wars.
The Skywalker. Is
Is it Skywalker Rising?
the Rise?
The Rise of Skywalker. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I thought so.
Okay.
So we finally got a trailer. I wanted to ask: is this something that's new and I've just noticed it, or sorry, is this something that's new, or has it always been like this and I've just noticed it recently in trailers? Them just kind of going through scenes of the movie, and then the voiceover is just each kind of character giving a little bit of a monologue.
Yeah.
Is that a new thing?
Did this feel like a final trailer to you guys? Like
Not really.
piggybacking off that?
You're just not going to answer my question.
Well, no, I'm,
No, it's such a dismissive, like, oh, cool.
no, because what I'm alluding to here is the fact that we didn't get a lot of dialogue in this. There's only one scene with dialogue in here with C-3PO, which I thought was a great little part of it. But, in the first trailer, this feels like almost like a first trailer.
Mm.
You know,
It
it's
does,
it's like introducing the characters. Oh, here's their thoughts, and here's their little monologue bit, and here's their, the voiceover
Yeah.
thing that you were just referencing. To have that in a final trailer, like you want to have a little bit more meat on the plot and whatnot. So, I like this style of trailer. I think it's a good choice, but in terms of the release strategy, I'm not necessarily sure they've tailored this to what a final trailer kind of needs. However, in saying that, they've posted some of the biggest ticket numbers pre-sales
Yeah,
of all
I was
time.
about to say it's
So
outselling Endgame. So
what the fuck do I know?
So I think there's at least one thing that I can get out of this, which is that this will be one of the best looking Star Wars that has ever been put on screen.
100%.
very gorgeous.
Because, from a visual standpoint, this looks flawless.
Mm.
Yeah. And I think Solo looked flawless bar one shot. So, this looks like they're just upping the ante even further.
Yeah.
Some of those Star Destroyers and the layering effects they've got with all these ships, like it just looks immense. And and the scale of it huge. I mean, you're making the Return of the Jedi battle look just minuscule.
That shot with the thousands of ships, just like that made me feel preyed upon.
And it was like the depth of frame as well. I thought that was really impressive how they the way that they the way that they framed it, the way that they had the depth of field in there. I just, as I said, this will look spectacular. The trailer didn't really give anything away in terms of plot or.
I think it's a mistake.
Yeah, it didn't really give any confidence in terms of the storyline. So I said, it's gonna look really great. I don't know that it's gonna have much substance behind it.
This is the final trailer in a trilogy.
Yeah.
How is everything going to wrap up? I didn't get any kind of semblance of that in this. This could be like episode 9 and then episode 10's rolling around right after, I just didn't think, I really like the trailer. I think it's awesome, but I just think it's missing a few key ingredients that just contextualize it a bit more.
Yeah, I'm struggling to imagine this film kind of tying up this trilogy in a neat little bow and making it feel like a really cohesive package.
I think ultimately these last 3 films are going to be defined about 3 filmmakers in 3 completely different mindsets making a trilogy.
Even though there's only 2.
Well, sorry, 3. Yeah, okay, fair enough. But
I do know
think
what
the
you mean.
mindset of JJ in Force Awakens is completely different to what his mindset is in this one.
Or he's dealing with a different universe. And he's
the
trying
Star
to
Wars
reconcile.
universe.
Yeah, well, I mean, like from
It's our universe.
Ryan Johnson, how he's changed what
Exactly.
he kind of created. So he might be in the same mindset, but trying to deal with different variables now.
And wrap up 9 movies, coming onto the project. He's only had 20 months since he started writing the script to make this movie.
That's wild.
20 months.
And for a movie that looks that polished, like in the trailer at least,
they would have to start pre-visualization immediately.
Fuck.
They've been working on the effects shots since the last movie.
least,
The set pieces were all probably done. One kind of new thing about this trailer was the Sidious voiceover that really positions him as kind of the villain of this film, and feels like they're trying to make this the 9-film story.
Yes.
Like it's all about Palpatine, Sidious kind of doing this stuff. How are you guys feeling about his role in this?
I think they're going to have to make it work with Snoke and Kylo because they can make it work. They just can't skim over the details. Like by bringing in Sidious, you have to say something about Snoke. You have to, if you don't, it really makes it feel so random.
I
love the throne. I love the throne that he's in, and the Sidious throne that's Ralph McQuarrie's original design and whatnot.
2 things. The first is I feel like bringing Sidious is a little bit more cheap, as in it doesn't really fit the story or how the story should flow. And they've just kind of brought him back because, hey, people like Sidious. Let's fucking throw him
With the
into
right
this.
story, they can make it work.
I mean, with the right story, you can make just about anything work,
Exactly.
really. But I mean, this feels like forced, as in they thought, how do we bring Sidious in, as opposed to arriving at that conclusion, looking at the story and thinking, what does this need next?
Yeah.
So that's one thing. The other thing is, the more I think about Snoke, the more I quite liked that they killed him off, and I don't really need
I love that.
a conclusion to his story, or how I don't really need to see how he fits in, because the whole point of that was that he's not the bad guy, or he's not the main antagonist, kind of the puppet master who's controlling everything. Really, it's about Kylo filling that space, or there being a vacuum there that Kylo is at least tempted to ascend to. Which I love the idea that in the 9th film that it's really Kylo pushing this with just this kind of raw ferocity of, figuring out how evil he needs to go type thing.
I hope that's the case, man. I hope that's the case.
Which is another reason why I feel like bringing in Sidious as the new puppet master is a bit cheap.
Well,
let there be a vacuum there. Let him deal with that.
If they had gone down the path of Kylo is supreme leader and he's the bad guy, in this one. I would have loved that. I would have thought that's great. You don't actually need Sidious above. Why do you need some other villain
that's my
thing
point,
above?
right?
Like Kylo.
There doesn't need to be a puppet master.
Yeah.
There doesn't need to be the real
I completely
bad guy.
agree, and they could have easily made that work. But you get the I was speaking with one of my Star Wars buddies today, and he said, the first teaser trailer had a major key version of Kylo's theme, and also you get the bit where him and Rey are cutting down Darth Vader's statue. I think he's definitely going to be redeemed.
Yeah, absolutely. The Rise of Skywalker. A lot of people are speculating that he is the Skywalker of that title. I think he's absolutely going to kill Palpatine, and I guess I'm feeling charitable in the bringing back of Sidious, in that he was the main antagonist essentially of the other 6 movies in a way. So if they are trying to tie this all up, maybe it's not the worst idea depending on how they execute it. I'm going to throw in my wild speculation, as I seem to every time we talk about Star Wars, because it just comes to me. I think this movie is going to be a lot about cloning, and I think that Rey will maybe be a Palpatine clone, and I think Snoke might be revealed to be a really shitty clone of Palpatine.
That'd be cool.
Just as a way to explain away what he was and why he was doing his shit. Because everyone seems to be talking about this notion, and it rings very true, that what was left of the Empire retreated into the unknown space, the uncharted zone, whatever that is.
Which is that ice planet that they're, and the Star Destroyer is bursting out.
Yeah,
all
because
the ships are waiting there.
Because the Star Destroyers we see, that unbelievably huge fleet, that's not First Order Star Destroyers.
Yes.
That's original Star Destroyers.
Yes.
So it seems like maybe they're coming back. Maybe old Sheev Palpatine has been off half dead in some recess of the universe, just kind of manipulating the Force to like pop out these clones of himself or something.
Interesting.
I think that one of the things that would have been necessary for that to make sense is an explanation within the films, like canon in films, of who Anakin was and how he came about. And that, I mean, you see the theory all the time on the internet about how Palpatine created Anakin.
That's confirmed in canon.
That's very solid. But I think within the films even, that's very clear.
I think.
Sorry,
and I think,
back up.
and
What? How?
I think that is confirmed. If not in the films, it's confirmed in canon.
I believe it. No. I believe it is confirmed in canon in terms of greater knowledge.
It's outright said in the
it's
comics
very much
in canon.
implied.
But yeah, I think it's implied very heavily in the prequel trilogy.
How?
In episode 3.
Yeah,
With all the
Palpatine says
Plagueis
that
stuff.
using the power of the dark side, we can create life.
That's pretty vague.
But I mean, if you
it's
connect the
there.
dots of Anakin not having a father and him being the chosen one, I think it all fits into the plot
And
really
I mean,
well.
it
then
fits,
knowing-
but the idea that you would arrive to that conclusion confidently without extra help, I think is a pretty big
Well-
stretch. I think that if you're going to like bring in cloning or force manipulation in that way as a mechanism,
No, that's
in
right. Okay, so
episode
let me
9,
say then. Okay, if that's how you feel about that, maybe that's not what they're doing, because that's not how cloning. That's not cloning. That's not how cloning works in this universe. It could actually just be cloning, like Camino. and
Yeah,
the
okay,
clones.
yeah, which is an
So I'm not
established
saying that's
mechanism.
necessarily what he's been doing, but I think they could absolutely confirm that in this one.
I'd
Even though
could-
we've never
I
had it
don't-
done.
I mean,
I
they would
really would
almost certainly have
dislike
to.
cloning. I would really dislike it.
But
if
I
they
think,
go down that path.
given how much they've liked bringing back things from the original trilogies and subverting them or twisting them, I think the fact that we haven't seen any stuff about clones in this one, even though that's dates right back to A New Hope.
There was one bit in episode 7 where he goes, "Well, I have to start making some clones or something." But Kylo and General Hux have a little.
Right.
They mentioned about how they don't clone people anymore,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
they maybe he should or
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
There's
yeah,
a
something
throwaway
like
line.
that. Listen, I really hope they nail that Palpatine shit, because what do you think about him in the big mecha suit? at the
I
end?
don't know what that is. I'm not even going to speculate about that. Like, you just see him sort of moving his chair.
It does look like a mech suit or some kind of like.
totally.
I hope it's not like some kind of like spider chair thing.
I've heard it's like some kind of breathing apparatus that he survived. And so
Doesn't that feel a bit like?
so at the beginning, she's on the forest moon of Endor. She's training. She's and the helmet that rolls down at the bottom, that's the same helmet that Princess Leia and Luke were wearing in
the speeder chase.
In the speeder chase.
Whoa.
Yeah. So they're definitely on the Forest Moon Endor. Their Death Star's below there.
It does feel a little bit like JJ to kind of lean heavily on the. I mean, that is one thing I liked about Rian Johnson, which is that he wasn't afraid to kind of break the mold and try and take this trilogy outside of the established, or not even just the established world, but like just what had come before.
More like Ruin Johnson.
Yeah.
She saw that the other day. So type that out.
Whereas JJ seems to be, again, relying quite heavily on, Palpatine, nostalgia, and all that kind of stuff, which has consistently been my least enjoyed part of Star Wars in this most recent trilogy, is when they lean too heavily on what has come before.
I wish I gave more of a shit about Poe and Finn, and because I really think I did like them after Episode 9, and I really do love The Last Jedi. I'm sorry, 7. And I really do love The Last Jedi, but I truly believe that Rian Johnson was very much making his own film and not necessarily thinking about the whole trilogy or the whole
Finn's
arcs.
Friend? Weird
Rose Tico?
Rose Tico. Yeah, I do not think that she deserved the vitriol that she got post that film. Having said that, that character was useless.
That entire storyline was useless.
Yeah.
Like that didn't really contribute
that's what upset me about it.
Very redundant.
Mm.
Canto bite. So, and any final...
Speaking of...
I feel like we haven't talked enough about the trailer. We're talking about our speculation for the film.
Can we talk about something that is very close to Canto bite, which is that they have decided to double down on a horse charge
I knew you were going to hate that.
On top of a fucking... I think it's on top of a destroyer.
I love that visual.
They're real horses, at least.
They look... No, don't get me wrong. It looks spectacular, but I can pretty much guarantee you it's going to be ridiculous.
Yeah.
A ridiculous thing in a Star Wars movie? How dare they?
Yeah. I mean,
does this feel like almost like the Episode 8 trailer? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it almost feels like you could watch The Force Awakens, then watch this, and it's kind of like...
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing that's really happened in between.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I feel like nothing
much. That Luke isn't in it, but...
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be confusing.
I mean, and that's one of the major themes of The Last Jedi is Luke's involvement and his character development.
Which I love.
And it's a major part of contention, which is why that I understand why that movie is so controversial for people in terms of, quote unquote, destroying a beloved character.
Couple final things on this. Did you like the C3PO
moment?
Yeah, that's what we haven't talked about yet. The real tugging on the heartstrings, got to make them grown men cry.
Felt a bit forced.
Yes.
No, man.
Yes.
Who the hell has ever liked C3PO?
He's finally got something to do. Die.
Yeah.
R2's always been the one to do shit.
Apparently he's got like a massive network of spies in the books and stuff.
Really?
In the modern stuff, yeah. Apparently he's actually quite useful.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but because we saw in the last trailer him with the red eyes.
Yes.
So who knows what's going
down
on there? Yeah. Whatever. I mean, how many times has his memory been wiped? Like, is he even a character consistently? Whatever.
Yeah. Any other things to stand out? It looks nice. It's a bit nebulous. The voiceover things, questionable.
Uh,
John Williams' final Star Wars score.
A little too bombastic, maybe, and a little
Really?
too on. Like,
I quite liked the score in this trailer.
I did, and then the final moment comes in with the logo, and I was like, "Oh, you just maybe took it a little too far." But
that felt like a final trailer, right? Like that theme
totally
really sold me on the trailer as a whole.
I agree.
Which was, I really liked it. I think it'd have been cheap to go straight to a like the original theme. I like how they kind of elongated it. I liked how they made it very, as you said, bombastic. I personally enjoyed that.
It's very majestic. I just can never quite fully commit to getting caught up in all this Star Wars stuff. I've just never been that enough of a fan to be like, the way that people reacted to the Episode 7 trailer and stuff. Like, I just can't. There's always in the back of my mind like, all right, it's fine. Yeah, all right. it's another Star Wars.
Well, there we have it. Not long off.
Yep. Moving on, we've got Vin Diesel's Bloodshot.
Now this is a trailer I'm excited about.
Actually, to be fair, I quite enjoyed this trailer.
I thought this was an awesome trailer. What a cool concept. I don't know anything about
yeah.
Bloodshot from the comics. I just know what he looks like, which is nothing what we're seeing in the film here. Maybe they're going to do that, the last 10 minutes he has the actual look of Bloodshot.
Yeah.
But as far as the concept goes, it feels like so much of one of those like high-minded sci-fi action thrillers that Schwarzenegger would have done in the 90s or something.
Totally.
Mm.
I'm like, that looks really... I'm actually... There's so few trailers, I'm like, I actually want to find out what the story is here.
Oh, yeah.
And in the first half of the trailer, I was like, wow, this is really getting into the dangerous territory of the most generic, mundane...
They found one kind of like hook,
plot.
right? Like your blood can heal you.
No, not even that. Just like my wife died. and now I've got to go.
Revenge quest, superpowers.
And then it did the repeat, and I was like, oh shit! Now we're getting somewhere interesting.
Yeah, so he either has this memory of his family dying, or they've implanted it, and they keep kind of rebooting him and changing who it was who killed his wife. So he goes out to kill them as a target.
It's
I love how
such an
they're-
interesting concept.
Yeah,
fun,
they're
yeah.
playing on that trope of I'm gonna go kill my wife's killer.
Yeah.
Which I do think is really cool. So yeah, the beginning of this trailer was a little bit like, okay, it's just gonna be your standard hook, like some weird kind of like sci-fi hook, and then it's just gonna be the same old thing. And then they really kind of double down with the sci-fi nature of it and the kind of the twist. And
Looks like they're going R-rated with it as well. He gets his face blown off.
Totally.
So we're kind
Yeah,
of
they're
finally
going-
really starting to see that kind of Deadpool repercussions.
Yeah.
A few years later.
which I'm very down for.
Yeah.
This looks like it's going to be a fun time.
It's probably going to be terrible, but
I'm excited.
It looks good, yeah. I don't want to get my hopes up, but it looks
This is
good.
the kind of thing that I'm always, I always think about Vin Diesel and his Witch Hunter
Yeah.
film, which was by no means a masterpiece, but it wasn't nearly as bad as it should have been. And it had like surprisingly good production value and quality, and it was a far more engaging film than I think on paper it seemed like it should be.
I'm just going to sub out that movie for the third Riddick film, which I think was just called Riddick.
Yeah.
And then completely agree with what you're saying.
Riddick's awesome.
Yeah.
I think it's really good.
I think
Yeah.
it's a really
Yeah,
cool movie.
exactly. I mean, it's a bit bizarre in that way that, he seems to be able to get budget for these films. He gets cool concepts, and then they have like these weird cult followings. And I say all the more power to you, as far as I'm concerned. Next we have Bombshell. So this is Nicole Kidman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Nicole Kidman,
Charlize Theron,
and
Margot Robbie.
Margot Robbie, yeah. 2 Aussies. That's a pretty good ratio. And a South African. You guys have any thoughts on this?
I know. This was one of those stories that you sort of heard about. Sort of
Fox News
nebulously.
scandal, Roger Ailes getting taken down for sexual harassment.
I never really followed it closely, but this looks like one of those interesting sort of tell-all. This is the true story, which is obviously always fabricated and manipulated and whatnot. But the great performances. Charlize Theron is always on point and super watchable. So let's see how we go.
Great cast. Yeah, I think this looks really fun.
Yeah,
which is not an odd way to describe it given the subject matter, but
yeah, I think we'll see a lot more of these kinds of films that are like, I mean, any time that there's a tragedy or a scandal or something like that, it usually takes about a year or two before you get these kinds of films. And I mean, I find them very hit and miss. So there was that one about the Boston bombing. That Mark Wahlberg that I didn't even watch because I was like, that seems so.
That's a weird one. Yeah.
Like a month later.
Yeah, it was just like it didn't vibe with me making a film out of that. But there's been other ones that have I think have done well. What was that? Sully was good with Tom Hanks. And even I just had it in my head like 2 seconds ago. But yeah, so I find that very hit and miss when with the direct aftermath of some kind of tragedy or scandal or something like that, where they delve into that kind of stuff. So
this looks like it has a bit of style to it, at least, though.
It does, yeah. We good?
We're good.
Move on. And last we have The Outsider, which is an HBO film. No, series. Sorry, and
Stephen King adaptation.
Stephen King
and
adaptation.
Bloody another one. This guy must work so hard.
He's got 57 novels under his belt.
Does he really?
Or yeah.
Yeah,
and like
that
is amazing.
Half of the movies we see are just based on novellas and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he's prolific, man. This one looks very interesting, but I love the police procedural mystery kind of vibe to it. And it looks nicely shot, and it looks creepy.
Yeah, I think it looks great. And Jason Bateman, I absolutely love him.
Do you think it will help or hinder it being a King film or like a King novel? Like his name seems to have some weird connotations to it now.
Well, he's so great at setups and premises. So I think this being a HBO production, I'm not so worried about them like whiffing the ending necessarily.
Really? Because they've never done that before.
Yeah, but I'm on a bit of a HBO kick right now, and we're all willing to blame that stuff on other people, specific people. I don't know. This looks intriguing enough that I definitely want to give it a go at least.
Yeah.
And I was actually reading someone talking about this in a comment section the other day about Stephen King's bad endings, and they just rattled off they're clearly a big fan, biased, but they rattled off a huge list of ones where they think the ending really stuck it. And they must be out there, right, with the amount of stuff he's written.
You're going to have the Langoliers.
The Langoliers, of course.
Yeah, you're going to have, ones that end really well. You're going to have ones that end poorly. Like, I mean, like you say, that's just statistics. Yeah.
Looks solid.
Those are our trailers for the week. Stick around because we're going to talk about Watchmen, I believe.
So yeah, guys, we're going to skip this question of the week, but we love hearing from you guys. So hit us up in the comments, hit us up on Instagram, Facebook. We love hearing from you. We want to give us 3 questions. I'm expecting 3 of you to write in,
somebody to step up,
answer, and we'll answer all 3 next week, guaranteed. Let's do our Watchmen review, non-spoiler part. I guess, do we want to sort of talk about how we were going in, or should we just talk about the episode itself?
Let's kind of jump into the episode, I think. We can give a little bit blurb beforehand. This is, I did want to ask, this is episode 1 of how many?
9.
9 in total.
Yep.
Okay, that's really interesting. I quite liked this, and like stylistically, in terms of like the craft of this film, and the style of this film, I thought top marks. Beautifully
very
shot.
Polished.
Very, very polished.
And just quickly, maybe before we start, just you've read Watchmen and watched the film, Benny?
Yes, and the 4-hour cut.
And Connor, you haven't watched the
but I haven't read the comic.
Cool. And I've read the comic and watched the film, and I haven't watched the 4-hour version, but I've watched the
Tales of the Black Freighter.
Yes. So as a fan of the original show, it was really nice to see
the movie, you mean?
The original show. Jesus Christ! As a fan of the graphic novel, I really appreciated the kind of look that they went for here, where
it looked like the real world.
Yeah,
to a large degree, which the original comic was very much trying to achieve. I think a very
grungy,
like, not stylistic, not stylized, not like everything Zack Snyder did with it. Essentially, like not glamorizing anything. It just looks like people in costumes.
Yeah, it's a good way of putting it, because it just feels very down to earth and stripped back and minimalist and real. Whilst there's still quite fantastical elements, like you've got the cops putting the masks over their faces and whatnot. That's quite out there. That's almost like science fiction-y. So yeah, and then on top of that, the production design and the look, the cinematography, HBO is known for their craft, but yeah, they've really got a great polished look.
They've done a really good job on that one.
Yeah.
You guys are just going to have to dance around me talking about this, because for me, this was a 12 out of 10. So I'm just going to be gushing. I love this more than almost anything I've seen in a long time.
Cool.
I have not wanted to watch the rest of a series like this in I could not tell you how long, maybe since Lost. This might be my favorite pilot since Lost.
Wow.
Wow. What was it about it that
Everything
grabbed you?
Absolutely everything. I love the original comic so much. I think Lindelof came out and said he thinks it's the greatest piece of popular fiction ever created. I would potentially agree with that.
I would agree with that.
I really think it's that good. And I think this captures the spirit of it in every single way imaginable. And I'm just so excited to go on this story. You know, it has everything I need, which is, you know, paying back to the stuff I loved about the original and getting me involved that way, but also just telling its own story that I cannot wait to see unfold.
Yeah. So, I mean, how much of this excitement do you think is based off the, like, I guess the residual excitement of the comic book?
I don't know, like half and half, I guess. Like, okay. I love that it's set in this world. I love that we're watching a story set 40 years after the original, knowing so little about what happened in between. You know, a story that ends with a semi-apocalyptic event and seeing the world having evolved from there. That is so interesting to me, just as its own premise, even apart from being related to Watchmen. But then having that thing of having the connective tissue threaded in here and there, and just, you know, you never know where it's going to pop up. And I watched the little thing after the episode about what's coming. I'm like, oh, there's this and there's and that, and just all the speculation. It's so much fun.
I think what it did really well was it wasn't like, oh, here's the comedian and here's, you know, it wasn't kind of like we have to have all the characters back. It's taking a lot of the themes that they had in that original graphic novel and recontextualizing them. I think
and modernizing them. It is so for now.
Yeah.
But it still feels relevant to the original.
And Lindelof said it's a remix, and I think that's a really great way to, at least upon the pilot, I think that's a really great way to put it.
I'm fascinated because there's obviously so much in this world that has happened, and there's like a structure to this world that we are only kind of slightly privy to at this point. And I really want to figure out what has taken place, or how the society functions, because there's a couple of scenes early on that really threw me in terms of like where's the real antagonist in this, where's like the unseen threat type thing. I mean that interaction at the beginning with the police officer was spectacular because it seemed to be mirroring a common theme in our society today, but kind of reversing it. And then, this pilot took me. It was a bit of a roller coaster ride. Yeah, because you think you understand how the society is structured, and then it kind of throws you a bit of a curveball, and your sympathies change, and you kind of go, oh, okay.
I don't feel like I have any idea, and I don't feel like I will until I've watched the entire season like 3 times. Like, I'm so excited to just consume this thing. Yeah. It feels so dense, so layered, so thought out. The website I cannot recommend enough. It has, as the comic book does, in between each chapter, it has a bunch of like news clippings, articles, just kind of semi-related things from the world. The website is doing the same thing, just a bunch of like memos from the FBI or news articles, kind of filling you in on the state of the world, like just literal world building. And I can't tell you the last time I wanted to look for supplemental material from any project except maybe the MCU.
Yeah, I couldn't remember the last time I wanted to just immediately, or at least before the next episode, watch this again.
Yes.
Like, I am definitely going to watch this again. Mm-hmm. Because, and I watched a portion of it with closed captions because I was just wanting to follow all the details because, you know, there's a lot to this, you know.
A lot of things happening, a lot of moving parts, it seems, at least.
Yeah.
And of course, we haven't mentioned the main draw to the series pre-watching it, I think, for at least a couple of us, was the score by Atticus Ross and Trent Reznor.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and it is so obviously those two that are doing the score on this. It's
got the DNA.
And so that easily lived up to expectations for me.
Oh, it really reminded me of the 99 album, The Fragile by Nine Inch Nails, because it had more of that organic piano with the swelling drones gradually coming in and swelling into these crescendos. And then you've also got in this something really interesting that I don't think I've ever heard Trent Reznor do, is like that 80s, that sort of Stranger Things synth wave thing.
Yeah.
And I'm really
Yeah.
enjoying the vibe here because it doesn't have that cheesy vibe to it. It's
I've been listening to a lot of John Carpenter recently, and
Yeah.
that reminded me so much of him.
yeah, totally. So I'm as a massive fan, I am so satisfied so far.
Yeah. So do you think that this series will be able to maintain the hype?
Well, I always think about Prometheus when
Yeah.
Lindelof's name comes in, and I
Yeah.
also think about Lost.
Yeah.
And I know you love where Lost
No,
went.
no, I just don't think it's terrible.
Okay, all right. So you adore it. That's what
I
I'm
think it's
hearing there.
10 out of 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what you're saying is,
So okay, maybe I've just remembered what you said differently to how you said it in the past.
I think anyone that reviews the ending of Lost as not terrible, like to
That's
our
the-
ears,
that's the highest mark.
sounds
Yeah.
like the highest thing you could say
Yeah.
about
But
that.
Lindelof's always really good at the front end of the film, and the back end of the film is where it can suffer. I mean, I think if you're not going to take that as an example, I think Prometheus is probably a better example of a really great setup.
No, Lost is a great example. I mean, that's one of the most hated finales of all time.
So, can he maintain it through? But as you said, Benny, I trust that he's really thought this out because, he's only doing one season, I believe. I think he's come out and said that this is a one and done and that's it.
So even
And I feel like he's got a really good grasp on the source material and doing something fresh.
Yeah. He wrote like a little manifesto. It was like several pages long about what he was wanting to do with this series a couple months ago. Really interesting read. I can't remember exactly what he said, but it really felt like his passion for this project was so thorough. Like,
But
gives you
I
a lot
mean,
of faith.
passion doesn't always translate to execution.
No, but so far I think it has.
Yeah. But I mean, and then I think that's what George was getting at, which is that he's really good at setting things up. I think the risk is going to come in that second half. So episode, 7, 8, 9, or that last third. Sorry.
100%, yeah, because this is on full marks so far for me.
Yeah.
So there's the only place to go is down.
Can you imagine if he fucks up the ending? Like HBO is going to have actually an image problem at that point. And I mean, it's not fair because they put out so much good content that does end well and all that. But, if two of kind of the bigger flagship,
Yeah, at least it's 9 episodes, not 90 or whatever Game of Thrones is.
yeah.
So one interesting point I want to talk about more so with you, George, is who do you think Jeremy Irons is playing?
He's playing Ozymandias,
That's
isn't
Aussie, isn't it?
Right, that seems very apparent, doesn't it? Because I've since kind of checked, and I don't think that's officially confirmed. And I've seen a lot of people who are speculating very heavily that he is playing Dr. Manhattan.
he? Oh.
And there's quite a few hints towards this. At the end of the comic, Dr. Manhattan says when he's going off that he might want to try creating life. We see these servants that Jeremy Irons has who are clearly not regular human beings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They feel like robots or drones or
Yes.
something.
I figured he was going to off him at the end.
Yeah. There's him. There's the article, which is on the website as well. It's on the paper. You see at some point that Veidt is declared dead by the FBI, which means nothing necessarily concrete, but it doesn't confirm in the episode at all that that's who that is.
Interesting.
There's his manor in England or wherever it is looks almost identical to the one on Mars. Dr.
The one that he
Manhattan's one on
collapsed.
Mars. that
Yeah,
he
I did
collapses.
notice
Yeah.
that. I did notice that.
Oh, and he's sitting there naked, like Dr. Manhattan generally does. And the watchmaker's son, he comes into it at some point. Of course, Dr. Manhattan was a watchmaker's son.
Okay.
So, like I said, it's so densely layered. There's so much in there. Because, I was the same. I came out of the episode. I'm like, man, Ozymandias is really cool in this. I can't wait to see what they do with him. Then I went online. I'm like, oh shit.
Because I thought, how is he living like this? Are we in spoilers?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm assuming
mean,
this
who's
whole thing
listening
is-
at this
yeah,
point if they
yeah,
haven't watched
this
the
whole
thing?
thing is spoilers.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah, I didn't even second guess it. I just assumed that that's who it was.
Because I thought, how did Ozymandias, after all those events, live this life?
So there is a fantastic story about everything that happened with Rorschach's journal after the
Yes.
events of the first film. That's on the website. I highly recommend reading
Okay.
it.
Is it like, I suppose, canon?
With the show, yeah.
Well,
Okay,
that's
yeah.
how the Rorschach gang has sort of formed. Is the
Yeah.
fact that this this
They found out the
journal
truth.
has become
His journal has inspired all these conspiracy theorists who just so happen to be right in this case, I guess.
But maybe kind of reached the wrong conclusion.
so they're right. The fascinating thing about
We're
this
just gonna
is
edit
they
that
are
one
right,
part of your
but
speech,
the
Ben.
way they're leveraging it for evil is wrong.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the interesting part of this whole
But
thing.
yeah, it is complex. And then, but there's other stuff like Vietnam being a state of the US.
Yes.
Because of how Dr. Manhattan influenced the Vietnam War
they
in
won.
Watchmen.
And then Nixon had 5 terms as president.
And
No, you mean
well, yeah, Nixon was in for a long time, and Robert Redford is the president as well, which I really loved as a background detail.
30
that
years
was
of
brought straight
Redford.
into it.
And
Yeah,
the Redforations.
Yes.
So that's one of the part that I thought was really fascinating because I was trying to put
That took me a minute to catch
Yeah.
on to what was going on there.
I was trying to put timelines in my head and all that because this would be taking place in what 2010,
2019.
yeah, I think it's current.
2019.
But yeah, and they're like
So-
listing presidents, and it's like Nixon, and Redford. I'm like,
Yeah,
wait,
right.
Yeah.
But so one of the things I'm really fascinated is they seem to have taken they started out with quite like a racially tense scene of what looks like the Ku Klux Klan just going full bore in Tulsa.
Yeah, and just quickly, this is the Tulsa race riots, the destruction of Black Wall Street, a true event from history that was brushed under the rug
Until
for
1996.
decades. Yeah,
Yeah,
From
It's insane.
1921 to,
Like, real
to
shit.
1996.
Again, amazing on this show. I not only read all the supplemental material for this, but I went out and read a bunch of Wikipedia articles
Yeah.
about real life things
So
that are
when did that
referenced
take
in this
place?
show. 1921.
1921.
1921.
So that scene was meant to be from 1921.
Yep.
Yep.
The initial scene where the kid's in the cinema.
I believe it comes up on screen at some point. But crazy.
Okay, so
insane.
that makes me confused now again. Because the original Watchmen takes place in
85.
85.
And then there's flashbacks
there's decades surrounding
there's
that as well.
flashbacks to the 50s and stuff.
Right. So that throws part of my theories down the drain.
Damn.
'Cause-
But
But basically, there's a lot of like street or there's a lot of artwork that are completely black people. It's the police officer is black. The kind
well,
of
that's
hick
the
is
thing. That
white.
was this real
It seems-
community in America, Black Wall Street. It was the most wealthy black community in America. That's why it exploded like that. That's
But so my thing was, it seemed as though the kind of the race tension was reversed in this
Yep.
this universe whereby.
But yes, I think later on, after stuff like the Vietnam War, and I don't know how many states America even has in this thing. I didn't count the flag, but it does seem like white people aren't the racial majority necessarily.
Yeah.
In this America,
Yes.
Or something.
Or
is-
I mean,
and
they're
was-
definitely
and
not
I-
if you're counting Vietnam.
And I was so fascinated to like figure out because I thought that Tulsa thing might have happened post 85, and that's kind of the catalyst for how this had changed or something. It's not a part of history that I'm really aware of, and so
No one was. It's crazy.
and so that's kind of what I was thinking now. But now that I know that it's 1921, that's going to be very confusing for me to recontextualize that.
So the boy from the beginning is the one in the wheelchair who shows up at the end.
That also
it's
I didn't
like
understand.
100
but,
years later. Yeah, well, because I thought that was so great when he's sitting in the wheelchair in the plaza, and he's
With
like,
the
"You reckon I
note.
could lift 200 pounds?" And she just ignores him. And then at the end, he's clearly
yeah.
potentially strung up this guy. I'm like, fuck, and he's got the note on him.
Yeah, I think one of the most effective scenes in here was the cop
Interrogating
the Rorschach guy.
You mean when he pulls him over?
When
or
he pulls
in
him
the-
over,
Yeah.
exactly. And yes, you got that interesting racial reverse there.
Yeah.
But
go
what
ahead.
was so interesting was the tension built with him on the getting clearance to get his weapon out. That was a really fascinating element of this whole universe that I'm looking forward to getting explored more. And then, Damon Lindelof decides
reverse.
to do something very interesting here, where the guy just gets mowed down.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make it like, oh, he's reversed it. He's reversed things. It's like, no, this is a completely different world. It's
Yeah.
nuanced. It's different.
It's not that simple. There's so many
Yes.
little differences
It
that
was
such
inform
like a-
how this world
It was
has
honestly
changed.
a roller coaster. It
And
was
then-
it was a weird roller coaster.
And then you get something which the sci-fi fan in me is just like, oh my God, when it just starts raining squids. And I'm like,
yes.
yeah.
see, if I'd never heard of Watchmen, I'd be like, I love this.
Yes.
I want to watch all
Or
of
was
this
it like
right now.
trans-dimensional attacks or something? Like they
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know, the original comic ended differently than the film.
And this is
Ozymandias
ignoring the
creates a
film.
giant genetically modified psychic squid that he teleports into New York, and it has the same effect as in the film. It just kills everyone.
And the world unites because, hey, there's a common enemy now.
Yeah, aliens from another dimension are
Yeah.
attacking us. We need to unite.
So Dr. Manhattan wasn't the bad guy in... Okay.
Well, he wasn't in the movie either. He was framed, but yeah, same deal.
But it's way better in the comics.
Oh, yeah,
but
but like
it's-
that
it
was
would have
the-
been too
Would
wild.
have been hard to
Would've
put
been
together, but
really
I
wild.
love that they're doing the comic
Me
version
too.
for this. Yeah.
That was a fantastic scene, and
Do you think they are like so when Dr. Manhattan comes back to Earth or whatever happens in this series, do you reckon that they'll address whether or not he was the cause, or like is it
Let's see.
determined
So
which way they're
he
going?
has also had a big impact on this world through the comics version, which is he got framed for being a cause of cancer.
Which happened in the film as well.
Yes, and he created a lot of the technology in this world, and people there was almost another Dark Ages after he left the Earth because people became technophobic because a lot of technology involved stuff that he created, batteries and stuff. There was the
There's a reference to that about
they were collecting the
batteries
watch
that-
batteries, and they were pre
cause
whatever,
cancer or
yeah.
something,
So
Fascinating.
yeah, it's all so
It's
cool.
so well thought out. And, I can't tell you how this reminds me so much of that deep layering that you get in that Alan Moore, Dave Gibbons comic. I mean, it's so dense. I really feel like I need to go watch it, read it again.
I'm going to read it straight away. Yeah.
What else stood out here? What was that? Was that the Night Owl ship at the end there?
Yeah, Archie.
It was Archie, or
I don't know if it was
was
specifically
that
Archie,
tech?
but it was definitely the
Yeah.
exact same design.
But it looked like an
Yeah.
old like vehicle or something like that. So it could have been Archie. Like it could have been like a 50-year-old.
Hard to say. Well,
A 40-year-old,
I call it,
thing.
I'm bringing you knowledge from the website and stuff, but Dan Dryberg, Night Owl, is in federal custody
Okay.
because they arrested him in the 90s for breaking the Keene Act, which outlawed vigilantes,
Right.
and he refused to talk.
Okay.
So he's not, about anything with Rorschach or any of that stuff. And Laurie Silk Spectre is part of the FBI now. She's in the thing for the next episode.
I am loving where this is going with the cops and like how they work with the vigilantes and the
So fascinating.
idea of who watches the Watchmen. Who watches the guy at the top,
And I love what's his name's like mirror mask. That was so cool.
and the way it was moving in that little hub room. That looked amazing.
Yeah.
This is just so on point.
And Panda, how good's Panda?
Yeah.
I love that.
Such a random, yeah. Look, there are so many questions that this has posed. I am really excited and somewhat scared about how they bring this all together. Because it is such a good starting point.
Speaking of great execution, like I feel so done by the fact that I didn't see Don Johnson's character dying at the end there. I'm like, the way it's all set up, it's like, oh, of course he's gonna die at the
That
end.
sucked.
But I was so drawn into it. I'm like, I love that guy.
I thought he was going to be a main part of this show.
Yeah.
But so I was
What a
watching a
hook.
trailer for it. This might just be a misdirect by the trailer, but there's audio that he didn't say in this, or maybe I missed him
okay.
say that was in the
Interesting.
trailer. So
Right.
I'm not sure whether that's going to
So
be
you
a
were like, he's
flashback.
definitely going to be alive.
Well, I don't know,
Yeah.
right? Like the way that they were setting that character up, there seemed to be the potential for him to maybe not be the good guy, and like maybe he's, my head was going, maybe he's faked his death, or maybe we'll find out
And
about a
yeah,
more shaded past, or
What do I always say? If you don't see the character die, they're not dead, and we didn't see him die.
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of it's up there. It's in the wind.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, look. So when do these episodes actually drop?
Mondays, it's like the same Game of Thrones, I believe. I think it's
Cool.
kind of filling that slot.
This is why I don't like watching week by week, because I get like this kind of.
I love it so
love
much
it.
because
I
you
love
get
it, I
to
love it, I love it.
indulge and enjoy that one little segment.
Because I would have finished the series on Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it had all been out.
Exactly,
And then
that's
I'd be
how I'd like
right,
to do this.
I know, that's in the past now. I love to be able to just wallow in it in between.
Yeah.
and I'm
Speculate
glad that
about
we're
what's coming up
getting
next, and
Mandalorian's going down this release strategy as well, and I'm glad. But also, you get the full splurge, like go at it. I like that everyone has a choice, and everyone can do whatever release strategy they want. and I'm cool with it.
I do like. I will give one defense of releasing everything at once, which is that it gives incentive for the creators to not create in little segments or little 1 hour segments, at least as heavily upon that, because you get that a lot with, very episodic. Because I'm watching it now. If you think about like Community, they've got a half an hour time slot to fill, and they need a story that is front to back, and then they can have an overarching storyline. But really, things like a lot of the now I can't even think of an example of one where they've just dumped it, where you can have a lot more attention on that 10 episode arc and less on making sure that each episode is its own little movie or story.
Yep.
I wish I could think of examples, but my brain has just switched off. It's like, we've been talking for almost 2 hours.
It's been a solid episode.
So
solid episode. Well, there we have it, guys. We'll be reviewing every episode for Watchmen at the back end of the weekly show, and we'll do a retrospect once it's all done. And Mandalorian's on the way soon, so we'll be tons of streaming content on the way. Things are getting very interesting. So we'll be back next week. Terminator Dark Fate. It's going to be cool. Will it be the third best Terminator movie?
Yes.
Let's find out. Let's find out for ourselves. We'll see you then, Connor.
see ya.
See you then, Benny.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Boom, boom, chick, chick. Boom, boom, chick, chick. Boom, boom, chick. Boom, boom.
Bing, bing.
Incorrect, sir.
All right. Sensible. Sensible.
All right, now let's do it properly.
Who am I going to for what we've been watching, Benjamin?
You can go to me if you like.
Cool.
Oh, fucking
Cool.
Walks out.
That tickles me so much, man. Fuck. Oh, God. Fucking 30 now, bro.
This is gonna be good.
Come on, you gotta fucking wake up to
I
yourself.
have a weird feeling this is gonna be a bit of a nutty one.
Yeah.
All right, let's get her done, boys. Let's fucking get her done.
Oh my god.
Let's fucking get her done.
All right, yeah.
Enough of this fucking.
I refuse to be the adult in this room.
Let's fucking.
I will
Let's
sink.
get her done, boys. Let's get her done.
Sink to your
Let's
level. I
saddle
swear to
her
God.
up, spank her on, and get her done.
Mm.
What's going on? What the fuck's going on?
We're getting her done, George. We're fucking getting her done. Whoa.
Oh no.
I'm gonna need 15 minutes to do this.
Can't wait for this intro, George. Just get her done.
Everything's good. Everything's great. Fucking
real good,
recording and
bud.
filming the whole time. That's good. Put that at the end of the episode. Ready for it?
I don't think you've ever done that once.
Huh?
I don't think you've ever done that once, have you?
What?
Put the thing at the front at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Does it-
did that
does-
last week.
Oh,
Does
fuck
it quite
yeah.
a bit, actually.
Yeah.
Mm.
I love it. I get actually quite upset when it's not in there.
It's fucking zany, man.
Fucking
fucking
zany.
zany.
What? We'll do a compilation at the
Get
end
her
of the year.
done, man. We'll get her
We'll
done.
get her done.
We'll get
We'll
Drew
get
to
her
do
done.
Fucking get her done.
We'll get that shit done right here.
All right, George, stop fucking about. Let's get her
It's
done.
honest work.
Let's get her
Come
fucking
on,
done.
It's honest work.